Good afternoon. This can hear or no? Yeah. Good afternoon. Okay. So, oh yeah. So I'm going to do this transmission, Vajakalaya Sadhana. This is not a long one, not short one, just medium size. Usually we do practicing this one, and this one has English, Tibetan both. Transmission, you need to hear only the song, then you get transmission. No need to understanding. Long as you no sleeping, you can get transmission. If you sleeping, you cannot get transmission. Okay? Don't talk, no sleeping. Just listening the song. No need to know the meaning. Okay? Yeah. Orjipe Majunela Savanda, Rodun Sominjo Singelo, Kano Yishin Sojala Savanda, Yon Lam Sabdon, Dobar Singelo, the Zajima Dongala Savanda, and Jaledo Jetovar Singelo, Gararena Lembala Savanda, Rojugo Jubar Singelo, Dinjita Lamala Savanda, Nilora Yantomar Singelo, Yadam Pala Savanda, Rodani Jomar Singelo, Chijo Person Sola Savanda. Sana Parchesa Varsingelo, Kajola Messenger of the So, Yadan Lion Rosa, Chijanka Parchesa, the So, Developant, Rajivar Singelo, Kosong and Javar Singelo, Union Taras and Barasingelo. That's the supplication lineage lamas. So the main practicing. Namo Lama Gojo Yadan La, Java James Sojela, Dadan Roa, Simjena, Gosong Kebejas and Jimata can talk and does a certain level, but in Cordon, Kovaton, the Rubers, Semi Jerosem, Jedo, Hora Yelendo Jimbola, get a love, the Mayame, the Diane Savaradobe, some Jikora Yelendo, Om Dajaga, Da Linja, Yanda, Linjan, La Yadazan, Semarazaro, Unjamaras and Truzana, around the Tribulazona, La Samaya, Donde razonam da terzon jo jiro yenso java maro jibo na se jema balenda na zon zeme jujin on a hong om benza pi be de be alogen de neve de shabda a hong na wang bo na zo ya ye ga ting na to som bar we jin corona de ro je je go we ye me bom bar long ye shi me bom bar long ra na ye je la ro be ya ye kam we pe ma da ni da de je nor we de na hong go to le da ni ma ji zo bo ge bar jin dor je yun de je de na je sa ro ba ya je je do da ye kara yo mar win thing na ring we jin to zo hong jing ge da me so je ze jar dan jan den je wa ze yin ji ze ge sing ga de yun ni me bo ka ran ze ta ni ra ba de de ro ran je je na zo yin ji go lo jin de ma din ja ya je sa ni de ye be a pa rong go ne jo yun ben do mar ya la do ya la do da wa hong ga ya yo ngo de ba tam de ya yo mar do ga jin je ya yo ngo de gong de zhen je wa ya yong jan ze de war mo yo ya yong jan na sa ne do jin ya yo ngo pon ne nam ja ya yong ga yong Pung Yung Ya Yung La Yen Do Ja Ya Yung Mar Ja La Yung Gam Song Ya Yung Sara Na So Ye Ye Ze Jo La Jo Ja Ya Yung Sa So Je Da Da Ro Ni Je Na Ya Sa Sa Ro Ya Ye De Do Je Jo Ba De Ru Ran Da Zhen Ja Na Zong Zhen Go Ye Go Ma Do Ni Ye Jing Go Ma Ren Ko Yo Do Se Dang Zhu Ba Ga Do Je Da Ni Xiong Na Sa Da Da Ni Xiong Na Sa Da Da Ni Xiong Na Sa Da Da Se Ja Dong Go Je Ba So Zong Go Yung So So Ba Je So Do Ga Ni Ma De Sa Ma Zong Ga Ba De De Ye Do Ga Ni Ma De So Ji Do Je Ne They were Hong Lang Hajigo, Lana Jivo, Om Demada, Dogaron, Suja Java, Angora Sinja, Lavaya Wanda, Tohu Drube, Jiwa, Hong So Anha, Mamla Mamba, Rarantogo, Yisamba Jindan, Joro, Jimin of Dachi Yinile. Jiva Jim Baba Godumba, the Yunan Kordan Jibayan, the Yunan Kordan Jibayan, Jijayan, and the Jesus Rosiba, the Jepa, Bata, Mudozo, Yishiroja, Jineja, the Dansemo, the Badan, Galaya, Mudozo was a Yishirojan Korjizo, Home, Home, the Samayazati, Meda Samaya, de Jale, on season. Dubadavadan, Najima was a Rotojimo, the Jacobet and the law, the board of the Zao, only Jesus and Asangobe, Juban, Jory, Duraba, and the Balajuan. Nimilanda Beba Jesus on Benza, Gamba, the Bebe, the Balogan, the Shabdara, the Zayas, Hons of Jane, Lot, Unjermin, Nimo, Kayin Samaratan Jojin and Jo Margin, Domarje, Burma, Binzamadara, Balinda, Kai, on the Mojaran, Yirada, and the Jaraka, Janso Balon, Dojan, River, Bojibana, Dorjes, Boncoda Jelam, On Ahon, Parjin, Dorjuno, Robo Jaji, Namdangolo, and the Yugal River, Mojaran, and the Yava, Mojabalanga, but others, Chewatagan, Gojin, also Yogo, Gomaya, Subal, and the Person Junior Dance, Jatongo, Jivala, the Purpose Jizo. Portang Jela Santa Tobaja, Jitu de la Bang, Yotavan, Home Party, Dorje, Yuna, and Gorjan Collegian on the Rogan, the Rato, Hajan, Rodado to Danine, Madro Parto, Dag, Tuson, Hunter, Jibale, was their soaking tributes, some fly to them in a Gorokos, Dojas Angel, Saint Lautam Jon, Gar, Amar, Home, the number, Chapava, Zoranga, Nesan, Parma, Jepartan, Yan Javatam, Jujis, and Lanibatam. Dorje Pavela Zojuka Cherara, the Vasas on the Rana, and Bormibata, to Licher, Jalada, Yan, Saneja, Laya, Tergon Caseva, Tavan Namdan, King Korban Namjan, Hada, Poma, Sanjiba, Davar made the Om Benzakulaya, Sawan Benganiba, Home, Beon Benzakulaya, Sawan Benganiba, Home, Beon Benzakulaya, Sawan Benganiba, Home, Handel was Zorda. Handeni Bante, Yar Yum Yarju, Yum Jungolo, Pawanda, the Meva, Hajaran, Robert, you, Goro Yum Jazani. Someone in Yaji Dorje Joran, Gatane, Lengada, Draw, Hunting, Tukar Tempa, Parma, Jedo, Gom, Yom, Bezagalaya, Sahom, Bahon, Katanka, and Zayan, Benzai, and the apparent the Marasana, Tamartan, Yasawa, Benganiba, Home, Barji. Purva Lazo, yes, and Asavan Javan Brokos on Toyon Talento, Pamengaronia, Tuji Segongo, Tuji Jaji, Tuji Kenyalazona, Rayong along the Wonga, Lonjuzarva, Nuji, Chico Long the War, Dajilanga is on the Sonsoni Jazaba, Jizoyanda Jibong, Onimen de Yo, on Jig, Chigakada Linja Tachine, A Longorazon, Sang under your home Chukanazon, Tachine, Tanke to Jinjing on the show. Tamke to Jinjing on the shore, on your parajimos over the Gongil, where was the person of Jing Kordajipas in the Jin, Dambara Jola, Jo, Lobonjo, engaging up with so much. She mentioned the Samoyake, Jing, Yamas, and Barmaso, Parjaponia, Ramin, Kordanje, Kordanje, Tamseman, and the Jesus, Mazakalaya, Galaya, Mohangataya, Mama, Yanga, Karmakarai. Sabara, Varameda Samaya, Zambezabe, the Along in the Chabdara, as I saw Mabizamaka, Mara, Mezakalaya, Mohangata, Mama, Shenga, Karma, Karaya, Sawa, Paravara, Malina Gaga, Verzondam, Union, Kortajimanam, Juba, Tambandilla, Sani, Masomo, and the Jesus, Jersey, Juba, the Sani, Penip, Namjurba, Namjadon, Rosan, and the never get Jebata, Jordan, Romaleva. Maleva, Jordan, Ventalento, Jehon, Parjano, Galaya, Canizo, Madame Shona, Dani, Sadama, Genjimas, and Ponaje, Amje, the Rujin, Tommy doesn't tell that, Damin Cordangela, Jovel and Androbaranzo, Om Sarawanda, Savandram, Vishodaya, Home, so Yorumbojo, Chudon, Damaton, Jimbo, Sozen, and Yedapimala, never haunting number of the Leran comes on the Madame was in Doti, Ma home, Mam, Ao Mam, Solam. Om Pam Hoa Tam Ringa Yon Jata Jimbo Ran Yin Do Yun Jiromoji and Chawara Jong Ah Hong Sibu Dubada Wandang Rosa Wandang Rosa was a Yido Yido Yinajan the Mada Glayan Rosa Hong San Yoga Long Junga Nasa Desalaba Yoga Tuja Yon Person Jelam Brodan Yin Sagan Jesus Gana Sarama Jana Bunza Hong Danga Nawa Yabu Danga Tomba Yum Jadanga Nimero Hondani Dani Yeni Ranson Rizard and Tremit Oranyam Ransar Nasam Zimba Yona Yens Ya Omezagal Dabgain is it Hong Pao the Jimadela 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 Chinamadela Jimadela 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 Sanjo the SMJ the Somja the Sovereign and Dajan along and Ujeta the Dabarda Juba Zongo Trojan Sevan and Trovo Chimpis and Laji Yotam Chin and the Golang and Jusser Yendrawata. Ngaju Jawada Lengado, the Jenja Dunhanyam, Sonyo, Mezakalaya, Dabgate, Maraya, Hong Bay, Home, Barjin, Corte Jarasi, Jadagranga, Bonde, Barjina, Rojan, Kosoto, Jadot, Dandanuzun, Cortina, the Tinsayam, Mebaro, Benza, Yatroda, Kakaka, Ombenza, Amrata, Taya, Hong Bay, Hong, Dambo, Vijala, Sojo, Bardo, Soja, Janga, Damalama, Tomande, Ganga, Wasum, Joje, Om, etc. Om, etc. Bakas, Kaye, Hong, Yin. Colo colo nene coro to jun ko jena se je wan da len zo je ong jo jin de da ma de be ga so ma de je ngane de je la to ma long chen chen len zo jo nan ji se ben ji na ne be den jo ne de zo ji be do ma de je la na de ban zo nyam mong ju ro jin je zo ma re ke ji ba kha na ra zong re dong ra wo ji zo ban sa me ba ne ong a hong lam dam ba ya ne ong a hong lam dam ba ya ne so it's finish the transmission. This sadhana has also protector and the two offerings. Usually you can skip these two sections. I think the see the page page 29 is finished the main sadhana there. So after that, page 31 is offering to the Vajrakalaya protector, Ganachara. So that's you can skip it usually. Sometimes you can do. If you wanted to do, it's okay. If you don't do these two, still the sadhana is completely okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
제진마 단지 바트마 보스나 되게 되게 답바도 저저를 기회를 소리로 저도 저 봐지라서 도로를 하나야도 라바달라도 생각도 마요 이제 기도를 해서 삼사로도 제제제라나다 말하기가 뭐 파모도 버저와도 공부 가지고만 와데 오늘 진짜 저 바라는 데서 그냥 거의 라센저가 갔다 되바다를 너무 잡아서 와데 스톱도 가지라 주진이 좀 뭐저와지라 sem지도 던져도 나한테나 봐봐 주진은 더 잡아서 이 주로는 마다 바바가 왕부가에서 이 아무리 땅 나도 같은 저 땅가 사냥스리랑 사이에 담 막나야 들이 야스리 땅 즉바에 들이 삼치 잡은 거다 야스리 땅 시바에 망치 요래 지들들이 다slag 들으면 바바라 잡고리 잡고 야스리 땅 사시와다 초니 야스리 땅 가리게 제발이지가 찍다 가자 매당 마매기 제발 그 소탈당 사제사 하스니요에 레다 뭐바 소탈에서 되게 소소타 받이라 다 소소랑 찍고들이다 대화 동네도 뒤가로들이 선바하게 자주 종류의 소탈에서 들이 데라서 못하나 들이 란치고 상들다 다이로에 들이 동인에 타토고 요 말이 타토 동에 쫓고 요 말이 타토 동에 쫓고는 들이 나디니 쫓고 해 다기니 로도 마저를 받들이 남양들이 타토고 되어 쫓고 요 말이 대잘 타토고 되어 쫓고 사속 생고도 들이 상생을 하면서 그 상생만은 다다다 상속생 맞지와 지와 탑지와 마냐바타라들이 라샤와타 토탑자미라 망고요레 들이 되게 상속세도 지네 메이버가네 라동들이 사사 예미바 차리들이 이동들은 틀에 랩제고는 틀에 도토바가리 초지 들이 대들이 상하 탑토바들이 초 대 다tum는 제버티 시와 상공자는 애들 좋은 제거다 미만이 기발 대배들이 다 좋은 함선이 발 대사를 들이 마시랑 고사라들 똑같이 점점을 연구요랬지
So this morning, Madama friends, I've offered you the Vajrakilaya empowerment. And so yesterday, actually, we talked about how to engage in deity yoga, the practice in general. There's many different Yidam deities, and the general way to engage in their practice is the same, is similar. As yesterday, we talked about it more from a general perspective. And so today, we have received the empowerment of a wrathful deity. And so there's also a way to understand the practice of a wrathful deity. So what is the difference now between practicing a peaceful deity and the wrathful deity? So the difference is similar to the difference of like something being ripe or unripe. Also for this reason there is different levels of the path. There's the Pratimoksha, Bodhisattva and the Vajrayana path. Beginning practitioners first enter the Pratimoksha path of individual liberation. And so at that point, first in the beginning, they are more concerned about achieving happiness for themselves, for their own purpose. So in the beginning, their love is very limited. But then finally, one understands that if one only thinks about one's own well-being, then there still is that sense of a self. And for as long as there is a self, we can never find any ultimate freedom from suffering at all. In order to find true liberation from suffering, we need to become free of self-grasping. And for as long as we are selfish, we cherish our own purpose, we can never achieve ultimate happiness. So in order to achieve ultimate happiness, we must cultivate bodhicitta. So then from the Pratimoksha, one enters the path of the Bodhisattvas, the Bodhisattva path. And that path is the method to increase bodhicitta where it has arisen. And then from there, we enter the Vajrayana path. And so then there is the peaceful and the wrathful deities. There's many different practices, many different sadhanas for each of those, of various deities. And so the difference is that of ripening or being unripe. So we cultivate bodhicitta, and that is common to all deity yoga practices. We cultivate bodhicitta, and our mind stream ripens. We become the deity. So for our own purpose, for our own sake, we become indivisible from the deity. And then for the purpose of others, we then are able to perform the four enlightened activities. And so the ultimate of these then is the wrathful, the subjugating activity. And so that is why it is also referred to as the result. So the final result, the resultant stage of Vajrayana is the activity of the wrathful deity. The peaceful deities are more like the seeds, and the wrathful deities like the fruit that has ripened. So it is a process of ripening. So it is important to understand the practice of the wrathful deity, because if we misunderstand it, then it is possible that we go astray, or we cultivate all kinds of doubts and misconceptions regarding the wrathful deities.
이 상하 냠들이 버라다 상하 도지 특바서 매다 야나지 도지 특바시 도지 특바지 강들이 상하 냠서 라나들이 도지 저거 살아 랩톱 그래야지 배는 다상보들은 되게 사카시 남들은 남과 가르쳐고 요래지 배다 남들은 남서 남과 가르쳐고 요래지 배들이 주지 초세로 내세 대서 요래 동네들이 은혜들 상하지만 강해야 되나 근데 진짜 또 맞춰봐야 돼 강도 맞춰봐야 돼 짜는들이 생긴 상태 세대 이제 사제에 와서 또 맞춰봐 상제에 있나지 내가 또 맞춰봐야 되는 거가를 등행하고 이제 또 맞춰봐야 돼 저는 생긴 사제에 또 맞춰봐 가려야 돼 딱 이제 토리 그쪽 군주 잡으면 다게 로마망 가시 풀어야지 그것도 보면 이제 찍을 라면 제일이서 이 셈 이제 찍되면 초장만 하지 이제 찍이 초장만 나기나 이 초대 내 값인지 되라 제가 사지 가르쳐 말이야 되라 셈지 남는 사지니 셈지 탐지 세도 상지에서 막 강로서 이제 찍되라 배는 초장만 또 이제 초 이제 들이들 람이 가르쳐 차서 말이야 람 찍지 다지디가 로라 차서 될 생긴 차서 람 찍지 임피를 로지를 될 상지 차서 임피를 로 생대 파로를 생기는 핑고 서비스니 파 철접은 거야 말 다지디가 로지가 나나나나나 상지대 젤리들이 차당 무슨 유머마 독철제는 선뜻서 도도 이 초대 마성지 속인 답답하고 차도 그래. bên 첫째 뭘 첫째 야로 그래. 이러면서 통출자. 이 첫째만 다도 몇개 밀려서 와서 오요래. 첫째 때들이 제가지 산주는 말씀이 첫째지 몇개 동안 막들이 파 살 텀로 막들 배주 강남에 봐. 첫째 그래. 첫째로 돼 싸소니 내가 인지 세월에 대학 고성들이 다다다 이제 지금 람이지 하고 그때 다 자와지들이 semdi tampi sanje ya baha mawate jeti ya baha mawate tri jeti ya baha ko ta so sanje du lang na tri lam ta bo so ta ba ta bo dong he shi par sa tri dong he ta wa kom jong ba sa so tri ta sa chung chang bo do 이 사조서 문에 끼라 이 생대 처음 좋아하는 게 차나 이 한인들이 나와서 잡아마서 이 상하 동시에 보여래 오 상하는 데다들이 시바다들 진이들이 이제 참아들이 사지 저도서 대다 하고 또 보여래 대 왕보 랍들 타선송 대가 시와래서 왕보 랍 타선 자와리 마시 바디도 왕보 타마리 이때 하고라 될 왕보를 해서 좀 다투고 무슨서 왕보를 합소 그래서 하도 왕보를 하고 조여서
So the secret mantra vehicle is also referred to as the Vajrayana vehicle. So when we engage in the practice of secret mantra, then we can arrive at the state of a Vajra state. So it is like a Vajra vehicle, or the Vajra vehicle, the Vajrayana. For example, it is like riding on a swift horse, or nowadays we fly in airplanes through the sky and can go anywhere. So it is called secret mantra. Secret because ordinary people do not realize its meaning. So what is it that they do not understand? It is that the basis of mind of all sentient beings is actually the Buddha, is actually fully awakened, but they do not realize that. And because they do not realize that, they experience much difficulty in samsara. So why is it now that sentient beings cannot understand that they themselves are Buddhas? That is explained in the Samantabhadra prayer that many of you have heard about, have read. So in that prayer it says there is a single basis, but two paths and two fruitions. So it is the single basis that they have not recognized. The single basis is like the basis of water, like pure, clean water. And then water appears in many different forms, but it has the same basis. It is all water. So the Buddha himself had said, all beings are really Buddhas. That is because all beings have a mind, and all mind by nature is Buddha, awakened. So that is that single basis we are talking about in the Samantabhadra prayer. It is like the basis of water. And so then how do the two paths come about? It is because sentient beings give rise to self-grasping and then a selfish mind, and that creates a sentient being. And then the other path is the path of altruism, and that from the path of altruism appear the Buddhas. When we give rise to altruism, then the mind expands outward. It reaches out, it goes out to sentient beings. So it does not solidify and become narrow or obscured. But if we only think about ourselves, then we solidify, we gather the vastness back into a solidity, and the mind becomes obscured by various afflicted thoughts of attachment, aversion, and so on. Or for example, it is like water. When water is utterly pure, then we can drink it, we can wash ourselves with it, and if it is very pure, we can even use it as like eye drops, like even for medicinal purposes. So it becomes very pure. And then the other kind of water, we flush it down the toilet, for example. Nobody will drink it. It just dissolves into the earth, into the ground, and is useless. But it's still the same water. It's only one water, has the same basis. So the difference comes about due to a temporary condition. So if you understand that, you understand what the Samantabhadra prayer is saying about there's a single ground, but two paths and two fruitions. So all beings really are Buddhas, and the problem of sentient beings is that they have not realized that single basis that they have, that they actually are Buddhas. And so in the very beginning, when we enter the path of the pratimoksha, of individual liberation, first the Buddha had said, you must recognize suffering. And then secondly, you must abandon the origin of suffering. You must get to the root of suffering. And then you finally realize, well, then I must cultivate bodhicitta. And if you cultivate bodhicitta, then the eyes, like mind, will melt into water. And then naturally, actually, all appearances become the deity, and all sound becomes the mantra. Then naturally, actually, will realize the actual meaning of secret mantra of Vajrayana. Then you understand that all beings have that basis, so they all can become that. They all can attain enlightenment. So because of the different levels of understanding, we talk about three different mental capacities of higher, middling, and lower. So those beings who have no understanding at all are of the lowest mental capacity. And those individuals that have some understanding are of middling mental capacity. And then those who really understand well, those are of highest, sharpest mental capacity. And the Vajrayana, the secret mantra path, is the sphere of those, is meant for those who possess this highest, sharpest mental capacity.
파시기라는 전투 요리지 삼지가 도배 가리 죽고 요리들 변나다 가서 삼지 요버가라 랑게 마당 번지가 마트가 버들 삼지 요구나 이 버들가 동다라 드리라게 삼지 요배 버들가 보고때 동다는 또 통동을 생각요 말이지 들랑지 지붕을 창고 요리지 들이 버들게 무슨 저 가라사나 가서 동가 서고 거라 서야 돼. 이 보고티가 거 마땅 와서 들이랑 또 로또 땅을 나빠게 나보지 않고 요래. 대라서 뭐 강이 가세 소리도 주바랑 얘기를 그 요래지. 들리들 버들 보고들은 강피 피도 봐도 노샘 자와네 매배 대가 그래들 초청는 거 창거를 라지 점바 초청 주바슴 창고 요래지. 대외들이 남녀들 밤이들이 레가레가 요래. 레가레도 버티 세면 중들이 다 마음 걸로 보고 들어들이 로달라 땅고 들이 강반 요고 들이 보다도 마음 버티도 달라 들이 매도 잡지 대지 요래. 삼지들이 준리양 상거 요래지. 이렇게들이 시합라 시합 충충도 용거 요래. 이제 랑그 버리 사실 다 보자 되라 이 팽배사와 같이 접너버 사와서 빵시오래. 그래서 동남부 시합 매배 또 랑가버리지. 랑가버리 주고 맞거든. 제가 시험하지. 시합 매발에 이런 나디 조어지는 랑가버리 다 보자. 다 보잖아요. 파신 아들이 라비가 창고요래. 옛날 것들 파신 아들 용띠는 뭐좀 죽는 저러고요. 거기서 아리 용띠 옛날 용띠는 뭐좀 죽는 저러고요. 죽는 가린 줄 그래. 랑그 보이 사텔 다도 텔 집에서 이는 당 거래 보고 이날 당 거래 세 거래들이 보고 지날 지와요 랑그 보고 되마도 대회들이 다 이제 파신 옛날양 삼대가 나게 삼대 중도 저 나디를 접고요. 는 코베들이 요티 중도 저러고요. 그래서
The difference now between the three different levels of individuals or mental capacity, and then also the difference now of the peaceful and wrathful deities. Actually, the various practices that exist for different individuals and various deities, they all have actually the exact same purpose, and that is they all are an antidote to the negative emotions, to self-grasping. So in that sense, they all have the same meaning, the same purpose. Lord Jigten Sumgön had said in the Gongchik, the 84,000 different negative emotions, the purpose of Dharma is a single antidote to all of the 84,000 negative emotions. So that all the Dharma has in common. It is if whatever Dharma we follow, we need to abandon those negative emotions. That is the purpose, the goal of all Dharma practice. And then in the different Dharma practices, there are different ways of abandoning those negative emotions. According to the Pratimoksha path, for example, we abandon the negative emotions based on fear, and we reject them. And then later when we cultivate bodhicitta, strong bodhicitta, then we can transform those negative emotions. Then they are transformed into the paramita path through the power of love and compassion. And so how can we transform those negative emotions into good qualities? So for example, a mother and a child. A mother loves her child, and because she loves her child, she's only concerned about the child's well-being. So she would spare any expense without any greed or stinginess. And that naturally, that is the essence of generosity. And then also the mother cares for the child without any sense of disgust. For example, she would just wipe the dirt off their mouth or their clothes. She would touch anything without feeling that is difficult. So naturally the mother would forbear any kind of difficulties, and that is patience. And then the mother only has an intention to be good to the child, to benefit the child, and not to harm the child. And that naturally is the essence of ethical discipline. And then day and night, uninterruptedly, the mother works very hard just to make it right for her child. Only thinking about the child's future, thinking that in the future I must send that child to school. Also, it needs a house and a car and so on. So she makes any effort and works very hard for the purpose of her child. And that is the essence of diligence. And then also there is some small wisdom when you take care of a child. But then there's a sense of this is just my child. So you're caring for your child, but the wisdom is because you know what things to do that benefit the child and what things to refrain from so as not to harm the child. But it's not the ultimate perfection of wisdom because there still is a self-grasping. It is my child, and you only care for your own child. So that's wisdom then becomes tainted by self-grasping. So you care for your own child only. But still you are practicing the 5 other paramitas. It is just that due to this lack of wisdom and grasping at a self, this is my child, then the quality of the 5 paramitas becomes samsaric or turns into a fault because you think it is my child and I must take care only of my child. And then you naturally you have an aversion against other children. Maybe even to protect your own child, you might even abuse other children or even kill them, or definitely not love them as much as you love your own child. And so your love is limited to your own child. And although the paramitas in general have many qualities, when there is a lack of wisdom and there is self-grasping, then these good qualities transform into the faults of samsara.
La Shiva Tabji Yamsili Bakapsi, Shivache Tabji Rangi, Tata, Pashin Choker, Tongo, Nang to you, Yonti, Sala, Tongo Yore, the Tawa Tata, Pashin Choker, Kariki Jurgo, Tawa Shiraki Jurgo Yore. That's something that you da Jiva Mena, Billy, the bishop, Kazaki, Kariki, Ya, Ran Pukuti, Padak Chumara Savona. Rank 다들고 보다 정말 내리지. 너 서로 쉽지 탐지 보다 정말 맞지. 직다 연 말이지. 무슨 다 보자면 샘지 그 샘지 탐지 샘을 중에 서로를 샘지 탐지다 낭랑 그 보다 주바라도 제발매와 삼지도 참아야 돼. 들이랑 나가 보다 정말로 다 보잖아. 대나기들이 80일 남에 연도고 요래 샘을 다음에 대회는 들이 사실 왔다지 제대 80쪽 낭투지 용대 살았던 거요래. 대님몽 들어와서 사축 세벌 님몽랍도 줄도고 요래. 80쪽을 남에 줄도고 요래. 나디 뜻법 마에들이 발을 배 대답을 실어드리는 게 변한 조다 치고를 내가 제대나 이 조다에 야고 차고 살래디 내가 탑지 개발은 줄도고 요래. 대회라에 제답을 들으는 뭐지 지나 만나서 요와데 셔외체 다 편바는 다 초체 다 시바지 초르면 유모바 유몽을 아비시바지 아비시서 맨날 유모바 까고서 로데 연말에 다당 이메와 하고서 잘 샘을 다진 이메와래 샘을 다진 이메나 대략지에 유모바테 유모바 제사다 지금 남자 제사를 신진이가 또 그거 말아버리지 저들 발락이나 발람지 잡초 적 발람이 해서들이 다시 예미 동하고라서 하 대중시나 저는 유몽 집안단들이 제세 열당 다니는 거 볼때만 유몽들이 집안사들이 조조들 조지 그래서 매봉을 때 유몽 집안사들 유몽 조성사는 유몽가지 용기가는 저저들이 신나라지 들들들이 조디 세 거치 진짜로 담배들이 특별한 것도 파시 쪽도 될라서가 용디 시간을 마와에 이 초고 진짜로 가려서나 가장 싸와 탁바 띵바 섬제를 탁바의 시용을 라이 다린들이 나도 살로마고 다들이 라이 탁바 띵바 담배 용디 가려도 되라 하고 특별히 네 살로 달라 망로를 동을 가르치라면 냠슬을 바꾸면 첫 냠슬은 뒤통다 가르치는 거예요. 첫 냠슬은 주 유모고 집와서 비행수를 들으라는 지들이 사이고 이처럼도 라비들이 사용 거를 좋은 것들이 주바들 강의들 ninji 주바서 그들은 배는 유모바를 남상의 색도로 되고 배 생는 매가 책도고 배들 이 시럽들 매나지 유모도 생답을 배 남상 책도로 되는 좋은 유모 시바들 초진이 초년이 살때 때에 대잡들이 까비들이 가사람이 잡는 바나 다도 유목을 아비지 관리 사바된 기적이 저것들을 라시와 잡들이 봐 그러는 거 검자를 유목은 또 찡마다 다기님의 하고를 유목 토트를 라 초근냐면 잡지 때렸잖아 이 가자 되게들이 섭지 잡지 냠니스는 섭지 인지주야들을 토트고 도리로 보고지 제가 도리로 보지 초보래 도리로 보지래 들 저발람들은 냠이 있잖아요 디셈버 똑들이 가자지 대밤에 봐 치와터들 쳐와 치고지 그래 그 대밤에 봐 맨날 라비 그때 살때다 뱅을 거래 되고서 들이들 라초원 냠이들 라빠들 저발라서 봐더니 사람 치와지 도리로 보자 치고리 동대에 빵절 시선지 이 초고지들 도리를 퍼파들이 유목라지 시바스 유목라지 시레 유목라지 하고도 정말 들 유목한테 빼야버려 배나 세상도 찌찌마다 sempre 화장 싸고 찾고 그래 노차지 지질이들이 아장냠이 대화라지 샤워 그래 뜨먹은 냠이들이 뭐 뜨먹 니도 쓰여와 노차 왕당 쓰여와 세상롱당 쓰여와서 이 세상 그 틀레라서 라타보고 틀레 들 잠벨가 사지 때와 선지를 내봐대서 주세요. 고소 유모 광고들이 이 성부제로 요래 대마게 탑들 미비제 받다 이 삼바다 니제게 시작주제 받다 버더니 고소 센터 사지에 공부를 또 이 차사를 받들 유모 독서를 다 사는 총홀로 땅 사는 트레 디바타 때 이치나들이 라시와서 초보냐 설린 땅 하고 요래
So then, when we engage in the practice of the peaceful deities, so the peaceful deities, they have a certain outer appearance. So they have various peaceful ornaments and various implements and so on. And for the most part, the peaceful deities, their outer ornamentation are a representation especially of the 6 paramitas. So all the outer elements of the deity, the ornaments and so on, are a representation of the deity's inner enlightened qualities. So the 6 paramitas, for example, are shown in the way of various outer ornaments. And so how do we transform the afflictions now into those 6 paramitas? So ultimately, they are transformed through wisdom, the paramita of wisdom. And that is when you realize that there is no self. So actually, even in ordinary samsaric context, one can practice the 6 paramitas also with wisdom. For example, if you have children and a spouse, then you would think that now I must care for them, I must care for my children and my family. But then all other sentient beings out there also have been my children, my family, and not a single one has not been my child. So although I must care for this family now, in your mind you would see no difference between your own family and all the beings out there. They would all be the same. You would have the same love for all beings. Although now in this life you must care for your family, your children in this life. And so if there is no self, then actually your ordinary activities, your day-to-day life can become a practice of all the 6 paramitas. So that is what the various ornamentations of the peaceful deities show, the qualities of those 6 paramitas. So so according to the Bodhisattva path, the 6 afflictions, the 6 negative emotions are transformed into the 6 paramitas. So there is transformation. And actually, this transformation comes about only by abandoning the grasping at a self. That naturally accomplishes the other paramitas. Now, for example, if you work in a factory and you just have a wish for that company to be successful, to turn out good, then whatever you do there will become virtuous, will become the 6 paramitas naturally. So the peaceful deities now, they are adorned with various jewels and ornamentations, and these are all peaceful ornaments. And now the deity today is Vajrakilaya, a wrathful deity. And now the difference here is, the difference between the peaceful and the wrathful is that in the wrathful, when we practice a wrathful deity, we recognize, we understand the nature of the affliction that arises. So therefore, there is no rejection. There is no even a notion of rejecting the arising thought. But as it arises, you recognize its nature, because you have already understood that self and others do not actually exist separately, because within the mind there exists no such a duality of self and others. And so knowing that, although an emotion arises, a thought arises, as it arises, you know that actually what arises and to whom it arises and towards whom it arises, actually all is one. All of it lacks any inherent true existence. So the sentient being towards whom it arises and yourself in whom it arises, all of that lacks any true existence. So you would not actually see it as a duality. You would see it more as 2 waves arising on a single ocean. They all are connected to the same ocean. So when you practice the Vajrayana, and especially the wrathful deities, you already understand that self and others are actually indivisible. And so then the moment an emotion arises, immediately there is no thought of a duality. It arises within a state of non-duality, where there is no object towards whom it is directed, and there is no separate affliction. And because of that, it becomes liberated upon arising. And that is actually also represented by the fire masses of the wrathful deities. It is the instantaneous burning away of afflictions as they arise. And as they dissolve upon arising, the 5 afflictions transform into the 5 wisdoms. So that is, their true nature are the 5 wisdoms. And then also in the context of the wrathful deities, their outer form appears with various ornaments, implements and so on that represent, for example, the 9 vehicles or the 6 paramitas. So there is actually more symbolism to the wrathful deities than the peaceful deities. So yesterday during the teachings we mentioned that when we practice any deity, we must practice 3 aspects. That is clarity, purity, and divine pride. And we did not actually talk about purity. And so purity means that we recollect the pure meaning of the symbolism of the deity, the implements, the ornaments, and so on. Their pure meaning, what that actually all means. So each of these implements and ornaments all represent a certain quality within the deity's mind. And that is important to understand when we engage in practice. And so there is a lot of symbols that we need to understand, but when we actually come to practice, we don't have to think about each of them individually, but actually as you practice, the moment an emotion, a thought arises, immediately upon recognition, it collapses naturally. And when that is accomplished, then actually the various ornaments and implements and so on of the deity are naturally established within that dissolution of the affliction. So the wrathful deity's essence is an infuriation of great compassion. So it is even a more powerful compassion. The moment the affliction arises, it annihilates it. It is like fire. For example, the wisdom awareness is like fire, and the affliction arising is like wood. And so when the fire is present, the moment the wood, the affliction arises, in that moment it already becomes fire itself. And so that is, you recognize, at that moment you recognize the nature of the affliction. So the peaceful deities, when we practice a peaceful deity, we are transforming the afflictions naturally when we give rise to love and compassion. And in a wrathful context, we liberate them upon arising in a very direct and fierce way by recognizing its nature. Because they arise, the afflictions arise within an understanding that self and others are indivisible. So there is a direct and a sudden liberation of the afflictions. And so once we have accomplished that liberation, then we are also able to help others become liberated. And so such a person then becomes a Vajra master. So then we in practice, for example, together in a Drupchen, a retreat together with a Vajra master. And the Vajra master then can benefit us through the power of his own mind, the strength of his own realization. And that is why often those who are very devoted have a very strong feeling when they do these retreats together. But even those who do not have much devotion, they still will receive some benefit from the special quality of the Vajra master's understanding. So especially that's why these retreat practices, these drupas are very important. So in the Pratimoksha Bodhisattva and Vajrayana paths, we abandon, transform, and we understand the nature of the afflictions. And especially in the practices of the wrathful deities, we understand, we know the nature of the afflictions. And their nature is primordial wisdom. So in that sense, actually, the affliction becomes a good thing, a support, an enhancement to one's practice. For example, the moment anger arises, if there's an instant recognition, then the mind remains very clear, and the anger goes away. And the same is true for desire. When desire arises, it dissolves, and what remains is a state of great bliss, naturally. Or when you're very ignorant and you engage in practice, then it awakens from ignorance, from sleep. So through desire, we accomplish, for example, the liberating desire, we accomplish the magnetizing activities. And through liberating hatred, we pacify anger or hatred, the winds of hatred, and we accomplish the wrathful, the subjugating activities. And so especially, for example, that is directed towards those sentient beings who are very harmful to other sentient beings and also to the Buddha's teachings. And if they create a lot of harm, then they themselves will be born in the lower realms. So they are liberated with wrathful enlightened activities so that they are not born in those lower realms, but they are actually established in the state of liberation. So this wrathful activity becomes like doing a surgery with great love and compassion. And so then the way it is acted out, performed, is one visualizes the afflictions of those sentient beings in the form of flesh, blood, and bones, and then makes that a feast offering to the deity, and then the deity devours it, and the affliction is eliminated. So this is how we should understand the practices of the peaceful and the wrathful deities.
새끼는 당보소 마제 남게 다고 사축도 삼바데 니게 제고 세배봐 제 이직부 지고요 제 요번에 되는 새 야예 강담지 람지 그 정조래 람지 흔들 야예 지보라 송래 대시에도 그거래 생용화 지봉아데 다부감들이 임치나가나 지래 남 생긴 그 주인한테 남 생긴 그 주인아 녀몽아래 제 다나 다부감들이 이 시간에 저러고요래 니기니와 선호지기 류지배 나기 생기 샘지배 르세미와 띠라고 차디요래 뒤종시바들 오다 사족 샘지라 예예강 하나도야 차도사레스 드리상들이 무엇이만 맞으면 동부 공격들이 사이 시선바 다사대로들 domton들이 다다 프라팔라 선반 총강 프라팔에서 선반 총강들이 제목이 책 당고지강 공부를 뒤사오 드림님한테나 대공통들이 뒤쪽가들이 세드 돌리네 레담서 니마가들 도지 때와 용가르다들이 이 뒤나들이 도지 때와 때라 용가르담 뒤는 하정들을 차오고 여기 홍 그래도 저도 고구지들 가려 센터 하정 점들을 맞대고 배 같이 총통들이 샘싸고 차는 요래 이렇게 좋아하고 요래 근데 그거는 뭐하고 저도들 하정 차는 것이 뭐 소리요래 별로 지는 하고로 사연이 쉬어래 배대다를 대다를 저쪽을 대다를 세부터를 뒤치고 세부 정도를 연구요래 남 천다 이시서 아 지는 사연이 쉬어라 리 로마 사연이 쉬어요 사연 좀 동거 동설 엄마만 들리네 사연이 꼬라기 잡았다 꼬라기 잡았다 소리를 하래 다질라고 말해 니는 하정만 보여 사야요 그래 남자는 그래 근지도 좋더라 맞다 대체는 뒤로 잡고 쉐를 드리고 하대도 곰털을 용띠 됐다 그래 다다 이게 되는 이거래 서바 소가 파파테 대곰 같이 대곰 맞는데 이게 홍지 주고 곰 그런 거 보고 중지 때에 싸워내들을 하고 곰도 하고 요래 이게 홍도 곰도 그요래 홍도 곰나 저 뒤에서는 배다 끌어야 대 꼬라져가는 예마트를 대 곰들 대 총도 동양동양도 곰나 너인데 이게 홍도 곰터나 깨는 거 돈다 갈 깨를 돈다 다 매발 다 다지니 뭐래 이게 홍진도 다 매도 제 소식 나오는 거래 대바디를 롱마티지 저기 자세 큰 말에 즉시 송상 가야 또 거요래 이게 그 홍곰서 나요 말에 들사 탐지 도서 이게 홍등 뭐 또이 차제래 들 대샘마요 바지 근데 맨나 가라고 눈에 지나게 떼와라고 무슨 내 저기 쳐고요래 내 홍문달이 들이깔라는 거지 들이깔리 곰들이 봐도 꼬라자 시바 들이 요즘 초시바 제 곰들이 샘싸고 차들이 깨름을 하지 그들이 새 깨름을 하지 이게 요거요래 대답하냐면 쪼진 메이드라고 잠을 피고서는 흥지쳐보 들이 사문에 요래서 이시쳐보고 그래 다음에 봐도 사탐지들이 유성지 사지 탐지 sem지 돌아 상지 요래 sem지 탐지를 맞지 못하다 제가 요래세 내가 사지 탐지 탐지 또 요래 사지 탐지 대비지 또 나그 사람도 또랑 그 대파다 이시 다음에 대파사가 용진시 너버 대파 라기 니가 거봐 등을 타두고 대파 이치제 대파 저 상한촉 생대 요나 내가 또 타두고 대파 제바 하고 이치 타투 이치가 대바 대용을 살았더니 파체는 대지나 지라 마시나 이치 대바티 쪼래 대대 사촉점이 지오잖아 사촉도 뜨고 사람들이 필요 사는 마주고 장되나 삼점에 잡혀 용대요래 사촉점 맨나 마주고 사람들 동들은 내가 뭐 토목을 좀 듣고 요래 자다들 절라서 봐 듣고 요나 사촉사지에 고방을 폐기요 말에 저게 사촉성 가치고래 남들이 별일 하고 싶는 다 법안에 게만 탐지 다 잠지키는 이 약보를 했죠.
Then the various deities of the secret mantra, they appear in many different shapes, and they have all kinds of implements and ornaments and so on, symbols. And then they appear. Some of them appear with consort, and some hold the weapons as their implements and so on. So it is important to really understand the meaning of that and to have no doubts about the symbolism. Yeah. So we should understand the Vajrayana is practiced by understanding the deity in like 3 ways. So there's the sign that symbolizes something. So there's the sign, there's the symbol, and then there is the meaning of that symbol. So the sign, for example, is, Vajrakilaya is holding a Khatvanga staff. So that's the sign. And then what that symbolizes, the symbol of that is, so a Khatvanga has 3 points, and so therefore it has an ability to cut like a knife. So it symbolizes a cutting ability. And then the meaning behind that is that it cuts the 3 poisons, the negative emotions. So that is how you should think about all of the various signs and symbols of the Vajrayana. They probably have a certain meaning, even if you don't know each of the meanings. But to understand the meaning of all those various signs and symbols, you should read the scriptures that explain that. And so then now we come to the visualization, the generation stage. So what is most important, what is more important than a clear visualization, is to possess the quality of love and compassion, boundless love and compassion in your mind. So that is more important than the entire visualization. Actually, if you have love and compassion, then the outer mandala, the celestial palace, the deity itself, will naturally and spontaneously be accomplished. They will naturally arise. So the outer universe, on the outer level, the celestial palace, consists of the 5 elements. And in true nature, the 5 elements are the 5 female Buddhas. And then within the mind of sentient beings, there are the 5 afflictions, but in their true nature, they are the 5 wisdoms. So the outer universe and the inner sentient beings are complete within one's own body and mind. So it is almost like the entire universe, everything is just one body and one mind, and because it all consists of the same, it all is the same. So if you give rise to bodhicitta, then the actual and true deity, the wisdom being, will just naturally arise. So that is most important. But so now for the visualization of the Vajrakilaya, so you see yourself as Vajrakilaya, and then at your heart center, you visualize a small like wisdom being. And so that is, it looks similar to Kilaya. And so that stands on a sun disk, a small sun disk at your heart, and is about an inch tall. So this little wisdom being is like an inch tall and stands on a sun at your heart level. And then in the center of, in the heart center of that wisdom being, there is another sun disk, and on top of that sun disk, there is a Vajra. In the center of that Vajra, there is a small hung syllable, the size of a mustard seed. So you see it gets smaller and smaller. And the smaller the visualization becomes, the more your mind will be focused. So the smaller we visualize, the more clear the mind will be. And actually that is quite scientific. For example, when we make watches and things like that, when scientists make that, they put very small pieces together. It is very refined. So in this way, the mind, when we create something very small, like even in a scientific way, the mind is very sharp. So for example, also this prayer wheel I'm spinning here, and that is filled with many millions of Tara mantra, and with each rotation, I think that mantra garlands and deities are emanating outward. So that is actually also sufficient to think if this whole visualization is difficult. But if you can visualize, notice the heart disk, in the heart center, the wisdom being, and then in the wisdom being, the Vajra and the Hung and so on. But if that is difficult to visualize, you can just visualize the Hung syllable only. And the Hung syllable actually represents really the essence, the mind of all the deities. So you can just visualize the Hung syllable on a sun disk surrounded by the Vajrakilaya mantra syllables. And then visualize this over and over again until that becomes clear. And so the point of visualizing the deity or the Hung syllable is that it is an antidote to self-grasping. And because when you think of the Hung, for instance, then you do not think about yourself. So that is also my personal experience. Because normally if you have nothing to focus on, no object of focus like a Hung syllable, then the mind often slips into this neutral state. And then when you hear, for example, other people talk, immediately the I comes back and you think, oh, he did that to me and so on. And then you have, that is because you have no reference point. But if you have the reference point of a Hung, then in that, for as long as there is the Hung, there is no self. And so the Hung is a sign of emptiness, representing the mind of all the deities. You can visualize the Hung at the heart or at the navel. If you do not have any heart wind or illness or kind of emotional issues, then you can visualize at the heart. Otherwise, it is more advisable to visualize at the navel. That is actually a very important chakra. So first you visualize either at the heart or the navel the Hung surrounded by the Kilaya mantra. And when that becomes clear, you can begin to rotate it slowly. And then as it rotates, then slowly you can visualize that from the mantra garland, then light is radiating. And so in this way, your mind becomes more and more clear. And so slowly the other elements of the generation stage will arise. But what is indispensable in your practice, what is most important, is to have a wish to benefit the entire world, to give rise to compassion, because that is the actual deity. All the Buddhas of the 3 times have attained enlightenment only on the basis of bodhicitta, because they love all beings like a mother loves her only child. So that is called the power of the Tathagatas. It is the great compassion of all the Buddhas. And then there is the power of your own devotion. First, you must cultivate a clear devotion, which is to recognize the qualities of the deity. And then you develop a longing devotion, and that is to long for liberation from samsara, for self and others. And then there is the trusting faith, and that is to trust in bodhicitta. That bodhicitta is the only cause of all temporary and ultimate happiness. So if you only understand that, actually, it is sufficient. Even if you don't understand much else of the visualization, most important is this trusting faith. That is to trust in bodhicitta. If you have that, if you only have a simple wish to be of benefit to others, and you just recite a single mani mantra, for example, then already the benefits are inconceivable. And on the other hand, if you lack such an intention of bodhicitta, even if you do a lot of mantra recitations, there might be some temporary benefit, there might be some common siddhi, some miraculous powers and so on, but there will be no ultimate benefit. And so therefore, whatever practice you do, it is most important to cultivate bodhicitta. So this is to explain the Vajrakilaya practice in simple terms, and it is sufficient to understand only that point.
Tugabe Jarotana, the Soviet took a Yamatan, Sabasoka prepared. They took a Yamata Sergio de Nebrisa. They took a Jarotana though. When you go to the theory, that tell me what they teach it on Sana, started Gongo already. Teni te ti jisu teni sana rang jor om te te wang ga no o hong te ka bi no song go re teni la tam ji la sher go na o hong de yin jing mo ji yo re ji na ni o da a ni ya ko ta song go ngo re hong de tok jong na jisu je sa ji tam ji 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 gong go sa no ka ye hong ji de na ra ji ko son de chi wo kwang ko na to tam che de ta de jisu je sa ji tam ji nyang de go le ye hong go这红的杂志么样吧？哦，那是的，一个红的就叫我们的上，你这个一个红的杂志么的，红的工作大有么的。
So the essence of the visualization is here on page 19, or actually then 20 in the Savajrakilaya text. So you see yourself as this a principal deity, and then in this third line, in the heart of the principal deity on a sun is the wisdom being, the height of a thumb joint, rolling a purba. In his heart upon his sun is a golden vajra, the size of a barley grain, in the center of which is Hung encircled by the mantra. And then each deity's crown is marked with Om, A, and Hung. So that is really the essence of the visualization, and you just visualize it as clear as you can. And so here it also says on each deity's crown is marked with Oma and Hung, and that is also significant. Also during the empowerment, we received empowerment through the Om Ah Hung syllables radiating from the deity's places, and the Om Ah Hung syllables are the seed syllables of all deities, no matter which deity you practice. The Om and the Ah represent the essence of all the deities' enlightened body and speech, and the Hung syllable represents the essence of all the deities' enlightened mind. So actually, if you wish to practice all the Buddhas of the 3 times simultaneously, then you should practice the Om Ah Hung, because all the Buddhas of the 3 times, their essence of body, speech, and mind is included within those 3 syllables. And especially the Hung syllable is very precious. It is a representative of the mind, the Buddha nature mind, that is empty and free of all thoughts. And so that is why there is not a single deity that would not be represented by the syllable Hung. So the Hung syllable is really most precious. That when you think of the Hung, when you meditate on the Hung, then in that moment there is no self.
Papa, that I see about every G may not be going to chocolate, Bushum Tongo, in Chichanga, Lelo going to chocolate. This how the Papa is. Papa is one carry, none to you the Tawati, Bay. Papa is a good troy in there, there's also Samadi, Kazak Bay, oh, lot of this area. Come here, Peru, but Peru the Tawa, Tawa Sendri. 身份内陆的那这里关于细节我关于细节拍拍送了这拍拍所说明的东西讲的日把一些让个生命起了少忘的了让一个的参加各种各样的参与了这下高的那里科学的他人个了科学所见着个了这个别的说什么的这里虽然我东方哪怕的的出国个我的这东巴东江买个让12月西这深手他东西哦那多即将没就什么什么他哦这别去我让12月西说这山东你这忙了的呀那这个叫他到外面吃的吃的突然过来吃别西说对了这个这里就会有的哪怕个马车才有嘛这你有嘛die kosten zo beperkt is soms die tawa de toon tegen de nam to dan je moet gaan het is je raar je met pas door je wordt die tawa je met dit de papa se da papa mang be tawa samen de zo to na die naam die jongen die daar zo le ku yo le tawa ma to ba le ha ko yo ma le samen rang to bo yo le dong je le
So the wisdom being is as you visualize it here, is visualized like without any ornamentations, without any like elements or ornamentations, like naked, like a child. And that is actually very easy to visualize. And so then also for the meaning of the Kilaya now, the form of the Kilaya, the way it appears, represents an inner quality, various inner qualities in the deity's mind. So this a dagger here, this Kilaya, is a wrathful implement, and so what it refers to is the meaning, the symbolism of this. It has like this. It looks like the upper part is like human. So it is something that we can relate to. Like a deity appears also in like the way we appear. And so it refers to actually first the nature, the view, the nature of one's own mind, oneself. It is the upper part, the head. It refers to the wisdom awareness, Kilaya. And then the lower part, the other side of the Purva, has this three sides to it. So it is three-pointed, like a three-pointed dagger. And so that is representative of the qualities of the three kayas, which are naturally complete within the clear awareness. And you realize the meaning of the Kilaya itself, you become liberated from samsara. You cut the life force from samsara. So you plant the dagger and you cut the life force of samsara. So the three sides of the Kilaya dagger are the three kayas. So first, there is the Dharma kaya, which is the empty essence, the space-like essence of the mind. And then, however, it is not just emptiness, nothingness, but also it is naturally clear awareness. There is sometimes a state where there is no thoughts at all, but there is clear consciousness, and you feel very joyful, very happy in that state. So there is clear awareness, although there is emptiness. So that is empty clarity. And when you always remain within that state, then it becomes an experience of great vastness, like space, that has no center and no boundary. It is everywhere, all pervasive. And from that quality arise the Nirmana Kaya, which is the all-pervasive compassion. It is a state of non-duality that is like space. So when you realize the nature of mind, the view, then naturally there are no, whatever afflictions, whatever thoughts arise, they will naturally dissolve. They, upon arising, they already collapse. So this Kilaya here is the outer representation of that symbolism, as symbolic of the inner view, the nature of the mind. And it is something that one can only realize through one's own personal experience. It is nothing that can be understood in any other way. One cannot understand it only through terminology. But the actual view is something that you can only gain an understanding of through your own personal experience.
사지 공방도 다도 니메와도 하고 되고 니메가 그래다 니메와 하고 정말 그 사지 공방 대지 동이 용자 용신 이모요 말이야. 오 매일 직장 매와 작게요 말이야. 그다 좀 감 나와 처음에 요리도 요는 어때래 민항이요 말이야. 식당 나기 하고 또 요리 뭐 님이 대톡쇼 딱 탐지 다 싸고 송절이 싸럽지 저 탑지는 하장 등 싸고 싸워가 좋아해. 출대버 가리고 저 사지고 사지는 이요 말이야. 가도 sem들 셈 남가도 자도 된 남가 이유 로요 말이야. 잡초를 이요 말이야. 살로 가라서나 다 sem을 양도가 되는 은혜 sem컬로 입어도 대하고 저랬더니 다뒤에 다 먹고 들이 양도 용 받지가 가로 양상도 용 또 됐더니 이마 가디나 니요 말이 상타라 들이 메시는 니모라 주바 제야용아 들이 등에 제we 등에 적 감성타나 들이 제와 감성 차례 들이 퍼퍼치 아들한테나 지지들이 잡기도 마시고 대답이 yok 들이 매니 삼치 서로 잡동에 들이 미소자 저거 서로 잡동에 사례 들이 이제 간도 들이 다리 공부 이거는 뭐지 그것도 차상을 배우 가만히 있으면 좋자.
And then here in the sadhana, also on page 29, in the dedication, it says, I dedicate to the perfect transformation the great purity, may the result of the indivisible nature be obtained. So actually within that sadhana, everything is included. It explains in the end the ultimate result, the fruition of this practice. What do you wish to attain? You wish to attain enlightenment. So what does it actually mean? What do we mean by attaining enlightenment? It means that you reach a state of non-duality. So when you reach fruition of this practice, you have realized that self and others do not really exist as separate. They're indivisible. So that is the state of enlightenment. And then from that perspective, there is no one who experiences suffering, and there is no suffering that arises from anywhere. It all has dissolved and does not truly exist. But still, it does not mean that nothing at all exists. There still are the Pure Lands, the forms of the Buddhas, and so on, that continue to manifest, to appear, but not in a dualistic way. So although all of these exist, they are not perceived as separate, as dualistic. One understands them to be just like the reflection, the light that is reflected from a crystal. It all belongs to one. And so actually it is all explained very clearly in this sadhana. This sadhana is called a secret practice. Therefore it is very profound and goes to the essence. So what is the fruition you desire? The fruition I desire is enlightenment. So what does that mean? Enlightenment means to realize non-duality. When you attain enlightenment, there is no more separation between self and others. Just like in the sky, there is no division, there's no duality. Or just like in the ocean water, there is no duality. And when you look at your mind over and over again, you will see that in the mind also, there is no such a duality. So first you must understand that, and then you must actually gain an experience in that. And that is whenever a thought, an emotion arises, then you must practice and gain an experience of that. And then finally, as a result, you realize. And realize means that this state of non-duality then always remains. There's always a perception of non-duality. And then you have emptied the cause of suffering. And when there is no more cause of suffering, you have also destroyed the results of suffering. That in brief are the instructions on the Vajrakilaya. And next we come to the refuge vow. So those of you who will take refuge today, please stay around. And the rest of you are free to leave. Also, we didn't have a break before. Maybe that was a bit difficult. So now we can take a break for 20 minutes, and then we come back for the refuge vow.
So everybody can stay, we have a 20 minutes break. And after come back, Rinpoche going to give the teachings, refuge teaching. Who was the new people that get new name and also offered here. So other who already have refuge before, so you can stay and listening teaching. This also remind again your refuge.
Also, Rinpoche said that when you receive refuge, you can just stay seated where you are. You don't have to come up and sit elsewhere. So just stay at your seat when you receive refuge.
Dạ thưa, trong đại chúng có ai là người Việt mà muốn thọ quy y không ạ? Có cần phải dịch tiếng Việt không ạ?
How many of you are taking a refuge vow for the first time? And if you're new to that. Actually, the refuge is always the same. In whichever Buddhist tradition you have received refuge before, it all has the same meaning. But it is important to actually understand the meaning once you have received the refuge vow. And if you understand the meaning, then it is actually enough to just receive the refuge vow once. But once there was a student who said, I have received the refuge vow already 5 times, but I don't understand the meaning of it at all. And so that's why I actually have created this refuge card, and I felt it was really necessary to have that very clear and have it translated from the Tibetan also into English and Chinese. So we have that here in 3 languages so that we actually also understand the meaning. It is said that once you have taken refuge in the 3 jewels and you also observe your refuge precepts, then from this day onwards until you attain enlightenment, you will not lose the 3 jewels. With taken refuge, you have planted the seed of liberation, and then it will be with you wherever you go in the 6 realms of samsara. So depending on one's karma, we still have to go anywhere in the 6 realms. We might have to go to hell or to the hungry spirit realm due to our karma. But if we have the refuge, then if it is our karma, then maybe only for a short time. But ultimately, we will never lose it. And gradually, we will progress towards enlightenment. So we first enter the path of the Pratimoksha, and then of the Bodhisattvas, and then of the Vajrayana, until we ultimately attain enlightenment. So taking refuge is the unsurpassed or the supreme method to achieve a temporary happiness in the higher realms and the ultimate state of enlightenment. So if we seek refuge in the three jewels, then that refuge is undeceiving.
얘네들 잡성로라양 특파 체미장로다 특파 총리장로스 대 강리들랑 소속 싸바리 체발이만이 잡로들이 제총료 말이지 아따 특파 총을 놓치지들이 랑 특파마도 짜는 삼시바 다 대응아 동네 타고 삼시바 대응 초다 말이 망시지 동네 요자 동네 같이 요자这탈고 오서 탑에서 지금 말이에요.去了第二个超生的地东西，他新的样子，这里来了，马多、骆驼、手多了的，但去了就把这找了个没的，人家讲了东西个有，东西个没的，东西个没的，去个没的，这人们的去西吧的，从他从这里上东西，去碰见这些东西，早上就什么这个，去西吧查看的是东着我的意思，你上我当的这里不错，这里老着，这里东西他早上要买的，这里上东西的没了，当地的，这嘎巴多少人了，当地的上去家头不要买的，查工本来咱们能查工的，你妈的马车呢？南阳查工就上去个小头不要买的。主超上车我别在这个，从当地的上这上马车呢，南阳台湾要买的，从机场去上街呢我有讲，别在的。
And so then in terms of taking refuge, there is two types of taking refuge. That is according to the Mahayana or the Hinayana, the higher or the lesser vehicles. And so that depends actually mainly on one's intention. The refuge itself actually is the same, but one's intention might be different. So if we take refuge with a lesser intention, the smaller vehicle then we only really care about our own selves. We think that I take refuge because I want to be free from suffering. And actually, if you just have a wish actually to be free from suffering, that already is a good thing. Because often people experience suffering, but actually they have no wish to practice the Dharma or any other religion. So it is actually very important to have a wish to emerge from suffering, to be free from suffering. And so then the only way to really be liberated from suffering then is the Dharma, the reliance on the three jewels. So if we just understand that already, it is very good. Because if we don't understand that, people who don't need any Dharma, any religion, they have all kinds of wrong views and misconceptions and misunderstandings and partial understandings and so on. And they think they have no need for a religion. So then when you ask them, do you want to suffer? And they say, of course I don't want to suffer. But if you don't want to suffer, you really actually need the Dharma. But what is the Dharma really? In brief, the Dharma is love and compassion. It is that the 84,000 different Dharma teachings have their root in bodhicitta. So people who don't understand that, they think it is just this separate religion, like politics. This is like a manipulation. And if you see it in this way, then there is no way you will ever actually become liberated from suffering. And that is because the Dharma is love and compassion. And if there is no love and compassion, then you will never become free from self-grasping. And in many thousands of aeons, you will never become free. It is just like a block of ice floating in the ocean. If it never meets with the sun, it will always be ice. It will never melt. In order to melt, it needs the sun. And without love, self-grasping can never melt. So therefore, there can never be any liberation from suffering. Although sentient beings all possess Buddha nature, that potential, without love and compassion, they can never become liberated.
고바 용바다가 들어와 마차와 데라서 봤던 로그를 탐지 대 탐지로 들어올라 시합이 열에 들어가시 시합 3점에 잡아 열에 얘네 마도 바지 도다사는 하마와 로바도 바지 이 로마도 바로 로바도 바지 강도에도 로바도 바지 누구리 그 강리 다 좋은 거 가사 대기 회장 가사 서당 선언한 거 조직이나 다 좋으래 다 이게 이 중자적 돈이 가사지 요래 그 가리는 중자장통 제 출력으로 출력지 중자장통 어디 출력시도 코너에 다니 뭐 출발해서 출력 중이 요래 중마시나 이런 중자장통 로과도 봐도 약고 짜는 말이 출력도 떠나다 그래 되라고 그지 말도 와 되라고 그랬지 마시 같이 소동도 봐지고 추당지 네가 먹이 그때는 중동이 네가 때 출 필요 가려도 노바 가려도 니니다 가자지는 뭐들 중 가려도 용디 가려 네가 냐버다라 오 이제 용디 마마리 중마 되게 소동도 봐 되게 대사 시합이야가 되게 소동도 봐 이렇게는 들이다다 타블람 초콜릿 망보요래 저렇게 중단 후지 니가도 줄로 중문에 올 때 용진 가려도 되네 이랬더니 이래 이래다 당어서 등에 남아나 소리는 시장부는 좋고요 이 장부는 정말이 장부 그래서 사람이 백자에서 온초도 잡대 초에 이제 뒤가 라당 매상 달 만만히 작업을 잡고요 니들 만만히 좀 초대 좀 작업이 작업을 좀 하고요 라상은 봐 tamsi leona ti hang me pa kone ti dong ne yong go yo e ma ge la tsona te de na ta sa ji ge jo to ni ja bo re si sa ji sha nam chi chi la pe jo to ni ja na ti ta ja sa chu se ja bo re ran ge ja sa chu se de na ti de ge ne kam ta to ra man go re ti ta ta so dang ha so nam je ba la ti ti ja pa tap de da ti chang nyam ni ta ji jam do cha de re 이 대외 잡고 차지는 대로 도마 잡서로 어디들이 많이 들이 고롱 사바자 체총 이 대라 랑집을 삼을 잡선 동피지 대리지 뭐오 대가 랑다 대중이 마시네들이 심지는 페메토도 잡선 동안 대특바 체무장 거서 다 랑집보고도 싸우는 싸움 특별히 특바 총무장 거 이런 되게 준네들이 나뭐 특바 총을 놓네요 오 되게 특과 총을 놓자 나오냐만 되게 작성은 동네가 다 나인지 반대 봐 하고네 오때 죽고 또 그때 죽을 내라고 죽고요 나를 맞으러 다니면 좋아지지 탐지 그런 거 버터 봐 강리 심지가 돈 사지 더 봐서 심지가 돈에 잡도 돈 봐서리 망고 심지 탐지 잡도 봐 제고 또 뒤고 나온 것들이 잡도 봐 쇼고를
There is this, three different ways of like kind of misunderstanding. So there is the a lack of understanding, not understanding, and then there is like a wrong understanding, a corrupt understanding, and then there is a partial understanding. So if there is a lack of understanding, then for example, that is somebody who really has no awareness at all. Also people who have maybe some illness, or they have their mental faculties not all complete, so they don't really understand. Or also animals, although some of them actually have some wisdom, but they don't actually understand the meaning of the Dharma. So there is this lack of knowledge, of understanding. And then there is the corrupt understanding, and that's much worse than a lack of understanding, because if we misunderstand, if there's a corrupt understanding, then such a person, for example, would see themselves as most important in any circumstance, whether it is in their Dharma practice or when they relate to other people, even their best friends. They consider themselves as most important, and then they only see the faults in others. They criticize others, and that happens within religions too. Then religions criticize each other, and that creates a lot of conflict between self and others. So although there might be some fault in others, but it is not good to only criticize, to only focus on the faults of others. So that creates a lot of difficulty. For example, it leads to views like the communist views that regards all dharma or religion like a poison. So then there is the partial understanding, and so that is somewhat better. And so the partial understanding is a discerning mind that discerns the qualities from faults. So it looks at the dharma or it looks at another person and sees what are the qualities, what are the faults. So it does, for example, criticize people, but then also takes out the qualities of the dharma, for example. And so that is somewhat better because there is some understanding, but it is not a complete understanding. So when we then actually enter the path of liberation, then we should see the qualities of all. Although there are some faults here and there, but for our own sake, it is better to see the qualities, the good qualities in others. And so then, for the purpose of taking refuge, we seek refuge because we experience suffering. We want to be free from suffering. And the ultimate, the trustworthy protection, the undeceiving protection are the three jewels. They are supreme because any kind of worldly protection, a worldly god or people in this world, a country, cannot grant us ultimate protection. So in a worldly sense, probably a country is the best protection, the refuge, but also a country cannot grant you ultimate protection. Even if you are protected by the country, without any choice, you still encounter much suffering. So therefore the Buddha had taught, if you want to be free from suffering, you must be protected from the causes of suffering. And so that is what the Buddha saw with his omniscient mind. So we are really protected if we create the cause of bodhicitta. And then we experience the freedom temporarily in the higher realms and the ultimate freedom of enlightenment. So the different levels of the path of Pratimoksha, Bodhisattva and Vajrayana vehicles all are a method to be protected when we engage in practice. And so therefore all of these levels of path, those three levels, rely on the refuge, are based on the refuge. And so there are these two levels of refuge depending on the degree of one's own intention, how vast one's intention is. And so if we take refuge from a Mahayana perspective, then we recognize the fault in a self, and actually that all suffering really comes from thinking about ourselves. So when we take refuge from a Mahayana perspective, we do not think about ourselves, but we rather think that I am taking refuge for the benefit of all sentient beings. And we let go of our selfish concern, recognizing that this very I, the self, is the root of all suffering. And if we do not avoid this cause, we can also not avoid the result of suffering. So in that way, we can easily transform our mind into a Mahayana mind, a pure intention that thinks I'm receiving the refuge vow for the benefit of all sentient beings. In the future, when I attain enlightenment, then I can also grant protection to sentient beings. So such is an intention that we should cultivate when taking refuge.
Deva Tang Deva Jota Departure Jesu. That's Deva Karidu. Oh, ma, really, that's such a damn the Padro Kang Medu. Oh, Deva Duk Kari, two children team in Blue or just tolerate. You know, Papa. Jibala in Rock to tolerate. Oh, dear Kang song. Oh, Zion, me, Zion, no Batong, Nis, and Tobama down with children. Oh, you know, there's a gang in the Paro Pachi, this is the Mari. Oh, this is why. Tamang, but to tell the go on. Mong, but not tell Lota, learn that I may Papa, you gang in me by the gold. Touching the bottom to the song arty. Tap it in a joke on the last I took to the song. I don't think I'm based on Tejana. They tell the butter children, as robustly told Nick up, told you get Deva told you. 대화도 대회 저한테 맞지 사직에 대회 저저 오늘 저러 등에도 등에도 양자면서 레가람는 롬으로 가긴도 다 주들이 저기 요래지 오 나는 참이 양디 카동 빼는 거 같은 것도 나 저는 시당 그 차도가 양지는데 너가 담을 대버리 오다 차도지 요사 말이지 더 마음 거라 대다버지는들이 저기 다다 등이 가래도 뒤 저기 가래 차도 가래서 야 단진이서 유모 봐 저게 자 이제 단진의 성도 다티 또 용디 다티 이핀의 성도 조사지 이핀의 성도 오다 삼티의 약보리도 다티 답보자고도 저는 다 잡도 같은 것은 대 답보자고 탑 가리 다 삼티 녀야요 삼티 녀야요 말이 다 탑을 뛰는 거래 탑이 설어요 탑이 고조성이요 고조성 설이 오 고조도 뒤져도 뒤섬나 줘 사지 주다 괜찮으면 사지 장매 봐 사요 동설만 벌레스 어떻게 sab지 레레제도 하고 보면 산지 동설기로 샘직이지 가리가 상지에서 출했지 상지에서 뭐지 출가리리 상지에 다 산지 시락을 했어 출상지에 산지가 공동면을 조성 공동면을 되는 상미지를 되는 공동면을 조성 예 법을 남주도 때문에 그래 대받지 않는 자신 기바 벗은 저거지 대받지는 동행 연구를 기바지는 내가 도구를 해서 책임져서 선발해 또 사지가 떠서 말해 대외적 사지를 띄는 것도 추탐제 처리나 삼바당 행지 맞지와 제가 제가면 아무것도 고다를 했지 견디는 소리 비슷한데 저거 견디 나타 잠도 맞더니 gem신이 찍라 주섬지 견디 탑지 고창 견디의 송어들이 주섬도 저거 견디 송창 거리 송탐제 처리는 내 맞이는 도요래 듬리를 하면 봐 그것도 된바 돈담고 된바 돈이 되는 도요래 그 견디는 너봐 방을 다 진짜 강피비 듣고요 용딘 체험 중 내가 용딘 가용면 저도 핀체미요래 라그 동네를 비면 농어때 강피비지 그런 나라 주섭저 사지 답지 꼭 견디 송탐지 톡사지 가래 오나 같이 동네에 저도 삼지요래 사지를 삼지요래 선대식이 뭐 사지에 뜻바래 내가 기운이 찍라 주섭저 사지에 담는 거 하고 고초선도 받아 하고 세점에 고초선도 되니 다들 견디가 찍는 거요래 저랑 잡지도 뭐 설레시나 되는 거요래 무슨 요래 나가 건조선데 강리들 될때는 딩을 요래 근데 시작은 말이 사제기는 뭐 시랍레스 추기는 뭐 삼형제리 도지는 뭐 개베신리데 딱 랑기 추당지된 강국을 정 기타도 아침 모레 그동로리 기타들 다음에 제대되지 내가 제가 답을 처리하지 고방지 얼굴 정도가 되는데 그게 sab지 같이 같이서 디셈들 같은 랑게 대바다 구반다고 요리 삼지 되게 되는 랑게 세 걸고 요리 대라도 되는 지기는 대비 주력하고 그게 sab지 다니 좀 되는 내가 도리당 타투 사지 고방 맞춰 버리려고 답이 주력 대리자도 아주 모르지 내 돈을 그게 남아니 주당기 들어고 그게 남아니 아주 모르 상고래 조 탐지된 조지 임시인의 기긴 탐지를 남고 조선.
So the prayer we always read is, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. So what is your happiness? For example, you might think, I'm not sick, or I have no financial difficulties, I'm happy. And so why is that? It is because in a past life you have practiced ethical discipline. So now you have obtained a precious human body. So the essence of this ethical discipline is you have not harmed others. And then in the past, because you have practiced generosity, now you have obtained wealth. You have not hurt others, but you have treated them with kindness. So you have observed like a discipline that doesn't hurt others but helps others. and now you experience well-being in this life. So then when you know that, you consider, so if I want that in the future, then also I must practice that. So in the future, if you want to have no financial difficulties and no sickness, if you want to be well and happy, then now you should practice generosity, ethical discipline, and so on. So these are just examples of qualities that arise, but in brief, all the different forms of well-being and happiness in the higher realms arise from generosity, ethical discipline, and patience. So when the Buddha said, or when we read, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, the Buddha said, create the causes of happiness. And then, do you suffer? And yes, I also suffer. For example, what's your problem? Things never go right. I'm not successful in my activities. I have so many problems. So that also has a cause. And so what is the cause of that? For example, what is your problem? For example, people always abuse you, and people always accuse you, and they mistreat you, and they don't talk to you very nicely. So then what's the cause of that? The cause of that, for example, is jealousy. It's because of a wish to, being jealous of others, and a wish to hurt others, to harm others. That leads to such a verbal abuse, for example. So where does jealousy come from then? The source of jealousy is grasping at a self. And so that is the root of all the 6 negative emotions. They all arise from grasping at a self. And therefore, altruism is what remedies them all. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So therefore, I must cultivate love. I must develop love. I must sustain love. And so this is really where we begin to take refuge, where refuge begins. And then how can you get love? Can you buy it anywhere? You can't buy it. So how can you get it? You get it from the 3 jewels. And so who are the 3 jewels then? The 3 jewels are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha of the 3 times. There are countless, incalculable millions of Buddhas of the 3 times. And there is no need to know about each of them, because they all have a single mind. And what is their mind? It is the Dharma. The Dharma is love, so that is their mind. They all have attained enlightenment because they practice the Dharma, and the Dharma is love. So the actual Buddha is wisdom, the wisdom mind. The actual Dharma is love and compassion. So the Buddha has practiced the Dharma and has become liberated from suffering through practicing love and compassion. And now the Buddha shows us the path to become liberated. So the Buddha says, like in our refuge card, do not commit any wrong, perfectly practice virtue. So do not commit any wrong means if you practice wrong, if you engage in unwholesome actions, then you will experience suffering. If you practice virtue, then you will experience happiness. So these lines here are actually the most important instructions by the Buddha. So then you have a sense of, I want to follow the Buddha's teachings. I want to practice the Buddha's teachings. I want to practice the Dharma. So what is the Dharma then? The Dharma is love and compassion. All the Dharma is only a method to cultivate love and to not allow love to decline. And then the Sangha, who is the Sangha? There is the Sangha of the 3 times. And also the Sangha, the spiritual teacher who grants you the refuge vow, is your Sangha. And within this one Sangha, the Sangha of the 3 times is complete. That spiritual teacher's body embodies the Sangha of the 3 times. And his speech embodies the Dharma, the speech of the Sangha of the 3 times. And the teachings of the Sangha of the 3 times is the teachings on the 2 truths. That is the relative truth, which is the infallibility of karma, and the ultimate truth of emptiness. The essence of the Sangha is, it is someone who refrains from causing the slightest harm to others and who benefits others as much as they can. Although I myself, for example, have not many qualities, but what really is my quality is I have a wish to benefit others. I have experienced much difficulties, and through the Dharma, I have been able to overcome these difficulties. So today I become your Sangha, offering you the refuge vow. So we should understand the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha to be complete within one Sangha. The form of a Sangha embodies the Sangha of the 3 times. The speech embodies the Dharma of the 3 times, and the mind of the Sangha, of the teacher, represents the mind of all the Buddhas of the 3 times. So no matter how bad the teacher might be, they all have love and compassion. And that love is the same love as the love of all the Buddhas of the 3 times. So their mind really is still the same as the mind of all the Buddhas. If you understand that, you will see the 3 jewels of the 3 times represented within one spiritual teacher, within one Sangha. And whoever you receive the refuge vow from, they really are a representation of the 3 jewels. So that's the outer 3 jewels, and then the inner 3 jewels are actually explained very clearly in our refuge card. So there's no need to explain it much. It says, I take refuge in transcendent awareness, the heart essence of Buddha. I take refuge in compassion, the heart essence of Dharma. And then I take refuge in spiritual friends, the heart essence of companions. So the spiritual friends, the heart essence of companions, our most important companions are our companions of the Dharma and also our worldly teachers. For example, science teachers who teach us everything about this world, so we achieve happiness in this lifetime. Due to these teachers, this world has developed and we experience this worldly happiness. So those worldly teachers are all very kind. And so when we remember their kindness, then respect and love arises for them. And so that mind of love, for all of our teachers, we should bring with us. And then even more precious are our Dharma teachers, because they show us a way to achieve happiness in all future lifetimes temporarily and ultimately enlightenment. So therefore our spiritual teachers are really most precious. But you should always think that all teachers, the 2 types of teachers, the worldly and spiritual teachers, are all very precious, all very important. And so that's the supreme companion, the heart essence of the companion. So these are the inner 3 jewels.
산제지 정보 시랍대 가에 나서네. 아까 마도바가 남시들이 나서 타마게 다진이 나서 좀 제조가서 버터 로제는 라고 들이서 소좀 제치요에 좋아주시요. 넘버 18게 서로 이제 넘버도 18. 대라티는 제가 가르치고 다진이 통하더니 이인 상바된 이제 코나 공대나 이 저쪽들이 남시디 랑이 통나 다음에 봐잖아들이 다리 공기지와 니스미베 이시데 오 세면 님도 대하고도 이 실은 저 남시디 실은 보내 이 사제들이 랑신 사제에 랑이 니들 자성들이 랑semte 상제로 딱 법당에 생상제에 대회들이 내가들이 랑도 주고 싫었는데 그랬더니 이도지 상반신제 좋은데야 대회들은 사직은 정보 실합 잡독 사직 고방 실합되게 돕고를 해. 니스메 베이 동동.
So it says, I take refuge in transcendent awareness, the heart essence of Buddha. So you might wonder, what is this transcendent awareness? It is, now, when we have not realized the nature of the mind, then we refer to it as the dualistic consciousness that perceives self and others. And for example, when we have this dualistic consciousness, then we want to protect ourselves. Even an animal, like an insect, for example, they know how to protect themselves. They know how to survive themselves. So that knowing, that knowledge that is projected outward is the ordinary dualistic consciousness. So when it is projected outward and discerns outer objects, then we talk about this ordinary dualistic consciousness. And then if we face that inward and we do not care about ourselves, but we only care about others, then just naturally through compassion, the self will disappear. And that same consciousness becomes the non-dual primordial wisdom. Because then one realizes, facing inward, that within the mind there is no duality, no two. So then consciousness transforms into wisdom. You recognize that your own mind is the Buddha. So whenever you become free of dualistic grasping, your own mind becomes the Buddha. So for the time being, when we are not yet realized, then this transcendent awareness is the wisdom that knows what to do and what not to do. And what it should do is to consider others as most important with love and compassion. And then ultimately, through such awareness, you attain enlightenment. You realize non-dual awareness.
그런데 마음랑 다투는 데들이 평가해들이 이노 접지 방에 소타고 동바 창조 너나 설령하가 너바 롱하가 잡아 또 많이 봐 난 생각들이 이나 시당도 차도 라서 버지는 뒤집어서 이제 학원들이 방에 너는 평생 코나 동들이 이노 접지 방고 이제 집어지 남 친구 유모가 좋아지 방고 요래 제가 소타고 동바 창조 요래 대외들이 나를 영화 도마 자와 이양 그게 좀 강로 것들이 송특유 왕들 안들이 람나들이 마시 받았어 들이 랭나들이 로레탐 때문에 다리탐 들이 이자 차트가 좀 비용 제보래 서 영화가 도마 소타가 도마래 진피 이제 좀 상담 상도 너는 생각이 되게 피로 선 로탐 마다나 변의 그 이거 누가 정청하더니 누가한테 편발을 주려고 요래 이제 폐쇄 모델들이 폐쇄면 누구 세모들이 편발을 좀 나온다 투로 발을 주려고 요래 배들지 마차려고 너는 피고서 로다 마다면 말이지 이런 거에서 주바 탐지 그래서 난 그들은 저로 송발에 밖에 송발에 들이지 인피 제대로 사축서부터 동바 창조 그들이 산속선보 고막 토고요래 닭부신 감 토고요래 들이 늦게 다낭조랑 하동 창조 하동방향 디나는 요래 또 심지도 이제 디스트릭도 답발이 내가 들이 남직감이다 유모가 로브르트 바자르면 심지 답지 상기를 당이 예미에서 하고는 들이 상하가 따와 다낭조는 지갑들이 상지 고막 다 이거 찾고요래 상하가 동방향 레티티 창로래.
And so then ultimately, when the fruition of refuge ripens, then what are the benefits of that? That is also explained in our refuge card. And so first one, it says, when harm to others and its cause are abandoned, the individual liberation vows are complete. So the pratimoksha vows are complete in taking refuge. So the essence of the pratimoksha vows is to refrain from causing any harm towards others, and that refers mainly to one's actions of body and speech. So one engages in no action that causes any harm towards others, and that also is related to the mind, because we engage in harmful actions because thoughts of anger and jealousy and so on arise. So when these emotions arise and you recognize them upon arising and let them go, then whatever you do will naturally become harmless. You will not cause harm towards others. So that refraining from causing any harm, that really means to abandon the negative emotions which lead you to cause harm. And so within that, the pratimoksha vow or the vows of individual liberation are complete. And so for that, you can also think to yourself whichever vow of body and speech you would like to take. For example, any of the 4 root vows, or refraining from any of the 10 non-virtuous actions. Whichever one you can keep. Ideally, you can keep that vow for as long as you live, or if not, you can keep it for a year, or for a month, or even just for 24 hours. These vows of pratimoksha, individual liberation, refer to the outer vows of body and speech. And then the second benefit is when help to others and its cause are accomplished, the bodhisattva's vows are complete. When you have a wish to benefit others and you never separate from that wish, then just naturally you will not cause any harm to others. Then just naturally whatever you do will become beneficial. Even if it looks harmful at first, if you have this aspiration to benefit others, it will naturally become beneficial. That is most important, to have a wish to benefit others, because otherwise, if you have a bit of a harmful wish, but then you engage in virtuous actions on the outer level, then there is a mixture of both virtue and non-virtue. So it does not become completely pure. So it is most important to remain inseparable from this wish to benefit others. And then just naturally, whatever you do with body, speech, and mind becomes an accumulation of merit. So this is also what Milarepa had said. So within that wish to benefit others, the bodhisattva's vows are complete. And also this is how you obtain birth in the Pure Lands and so on. And then thirdly, when one is adept at the pure perception of the vessel and contents, the mantric vows are complete. So also within the refuge vow, actually the Vajrayana vows are complete. And because once you've cultivated this wish to help others, then naturally your mind becomes purified and you recognize that actually on the basis all sentient beings possess Buddha nature. So they are by nature completely pure. They are only obscured temporarily by temporary obscurations. But in reality, all sentient beings really are actually Buddhas. You realize here that self and others are indivisible. And seeing it that way, you will have a pure perception towards all others. And when you have a pure perception, then you're actually very close to reaching enlightenment. So the next, please repeat. Noble One, please grant me your attention from this time on and for as long as I live. I, who am called, and say a name, go for refuge in the Buddha, who is supreme among two-legged beings. I go for refuge in the Dharma, which is supreme among those free of attachment. I go for refuge in the Sangha, which is supreme among assemblies, for as long as I live. Noble One, please accept me as a lay adherent to the threefold refuge, who observes a few precepts. Master, please grant me your attention from this time on and until the essence of enlightenment manifests. I, who am called, and say a name, go for refuge in the Buddha, who is supreme among two-legged beings. I go for refuge in the Dharma, which is supreme among those free of attachment. I go for refuge in the Sangha, which is supreme among assemblies, until the essence of enlightenment manifests. Master, please accept me as a lay adherent to the threefold refuge, who observes one or more of the 5 precepts.
다다 지도 고마테나 지진 초이 받았어. 내가랑가 링하게 돈바 마시 받았어. 또 봐라. 자와 지야, 자와 니함, 나 찍는 나 뭐게 저 봐도 송강토도 맛이 봐도 송토도 맛이 봐도 송지 이 때문에 로 나와 강송토도 송 딕션이 이마데 상마제게 봐도 상중도 보지게 봐도 고 something somebody hinge 상마제게 봐도 맞던데 너 상중도 또 말하는 상대요래 딕션이 제라는 게 송강토도 들이 통 대송도 라자 라인 소비만들이 더 망실을 요래 요로 보고 말이 사바탐지를 드리거나 라인 소비만 배야 요래 라인 소비만 되는 게
So we have just repeated two levels of commitment, and the first one was for as long as I live. So that refers to any of the outer vows of the body and speech. So here you can think to yourself whichever vow you think you can observe, for example, the 4 root vows or 1 or 2 of them, or any of the 10, refraining from any of the 10 non-virtues and so on. So whatever vow you think you can keep that vow, ideally for as long as you live, and if not, then for years or months and so on. And then the second supplication, or the vow which was repeated, we said, until I attain the essence of enlightenment. And so that is, until attaining enlightenment, I shall not forsake the 3 jewels and the mind of love and compassion. And actually, within that commitment, the Bodhisattva vow is also complete. So you can think to yourself whichever of these vows, whichever vow you would like to take, and also in terms of the timing, how long you want to take the vow. But most important, the training, the refuge precept are the 37 Bodhisattva practices. So most of you already have that little booklet. If you don't have it yet, if you're new, then we will offer one to you today.
자기가 탑대치도 띠마야 돼. 라니랑 그 대권이랑 잡고는 걔도 저기 속을 전라들이 쫓고요. 해서 이들 렉소체 들이지네. 밤 모람 잡고요. 모람 잡고 가면 모람도 지지체 줘라. 들이 레지도 달라 팩. 짜지지는 요. 이 요라들이 다다 짜들 답발들이 잡동문화까지 제나 인디는 시속의 요나 사초제. 시속 못함제를 잡도까지 이렇게 요래. The mount of the Ingedana Procure, the rage of the pep, the Tato, Manata, committing pep chocolate.
And so then next Rinpoche will say in Tibetan, Tap Ye No, and that means this is the method. So the method is shown to us by the Buddha, but we need to put that method into practice. And if we put it into practice, then we will be protected. So when Rinpoche says Tap Ye No, then we respond to that with Lekso, which means excellent. And then after that, we will repeat the concluding prayers. And while at the same time, each of you can come up to receive the refuge vow, where you will have a piece of your hair clipped. And that will be placed into this yellow pouch that Rinpoche has. And it always remains with Rinpoche. All of the refuge hairs are in that pouch, and also after you have passed away, it is still there. And for them, for example, Rinpoche is practicing the purification for the deceased together with that refuge pouch. So it will always benefit those who are alive and those who have passed away. And in the future, when it is full, then also it is offered to a holy place. So we will do the Tap Ye No and Lekso, and then we repeat the concluding prayers. And after you have received refuge, then you are free to leave.
Tap Ye No.
Lekso. So then we repeat the concluding prayers. At the same time, you can start coming up for the refuge. So please repeat. Training, emulating all of the conquerors, may I bring excellent conduct to total completion and engage in wholly pure, stainless ethical conduct that never degenerates and is without fault in this and every successive lifetime, May I never be separated from the three precious jewels. For the sake of Dharma, may I be unstinting with even my life force and engage the purpose of wayfarers through great determination. May precious supreme bodhicitta become manifest where it has not yet arisen. May that which has arisen not degenerate, but ever further increase. In this and every successive lifetime, may I not be separated from the supreme teachings of the unequaled Drikung Ratna Shri, and may glorious gurus take me into their care in all rebirths. May I never be parted from authentic gurus and always enjoy the Dharma's glories, having fully completed the qualities of the grounds and paths. May I swiftly attain Vajradhara state in each and every rebirth. May I be of noble lineage, clear-minded, devoid of pride, greatly compassionate, and respectful of the Guru. Thus may I observe the Samaya with the glorious Guru. Whatever aspiration prayers have been made for the sake of wayfaring beings, from ever excellent, great Vajradhara, on down to the kind root Guru, may every one of them be swiftly accomplished. Om Mani Padme
Hello. Next weekend we have the most venerable Ken